It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Ace does a really good job of using his pivots. It's a real weapon for him. He drives, kind of little bump, pivot, and then he can shoot his little mini fadeaway because of his length and athleticism. But to get a whistle, you do have to play through the point of contact, and I think that Ace is doing a better job of that. I also think that he's doing a better job when he does go to shoot of recognizing that the rules in the NBA protect shooters, and you don't have to contort your body as much as you think. Like, you have the advantage of the rules.
That's Will Hardy talking about our guy, Ace Bailey, obviously, as he's going to continue to get some playing time down the stretch here as we head into, what are we at, the final 29 games? Jazz made some moves, didn't they, man? Lonzo Ball. He's in, he's out, just as quick as that. I think they might make some moves today, talking with some folks over there. They feel like they're really busy. They got a lot of stuff cooking. We'll see what else happens. I know Jock Lawndale was barely here, on his way to Atlanta. So they pick up second-round picks, and then they get cast considerations. And the Jazz are back in action. They playing tonight, Yock? Is that the game? Yeah. The Atlanta Hawks. And Atlanta made a big trade.
The Hawks.
Yeah, they play the Hawks, and Atlanta made that trade for Kuminga and Buddy Hield for Jonathan Kuminga. So and Porzingis hasn't been playing, but they have an opportunity to be a little shorthanded here. So we'll see. We'll see who's available and who plays, because now you made the trade, the big trade, and I was like, by accounts here locally, there's some other folks nationally that maybe don't like the trade, but I think we're thinking at getting Jaren Jackson in, but we don't want to see a whole lot of Jaren Jackson now. And the Jazz are still going to be shorthanded because the players that they got in the trades, the one that they kept anyway, they're still not going to be here. Certainly Jaren Jackson doesn't need to play because that first-round pick becomes important to the team's development. You could argue that the first-round pick becomes even more important in terms of their pursuit of winning next season. So it is important, obviously, that they continue to lose and get that pick. We'll see what they do today. What's the trade? It was 1 o'clock our time, I think. I think it's 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Correct, yeah.
I'm just going to say 3 o'clock BYU time. BYU
there we
TV
go, BYU time.
BYU TV time, yeah, as they continue to announce everything from the Eastern standpoint, and I don't know why, but it continues to bug me, but nevertheless. So 1 o'clock our time, I wouldn't be surprised if around the edges, if something else is done. We'll see. They helped Cleveland save a bunch of money and picked up a couple of second-round draft choices, and, it's accumulating assets. Obviously, they got rid of the 3 first-round draft choices to get a player like Jackson. I think that was the intent of the trade all along. There's no way that the team was going to use all the draft picks that they have at their disposal out across the next 7 years. And so why not use them? And if you can use the second-round picks to continue to build, that's what it's all about. All right, man. Excited to see what the Jazz can do. Not in the immediacy. I want to see them lose so they can keep the pick. And then next year it is ready to go. Excited for that, that's for sure. I think we all are. I don't think there's any question about that. So, all right, Yak, let's move on.
Hashtag NBA.
The NBA, yeah. What do you got? Oh, man, that bunch of trades going on. It is hard to keep track of all of them. I wrote them down, so I got to look at the paper. See what I got here. You see my eyes move to the side. If you're following us on the video, the Chris Paul going to go to the Raptors. I assume they're going to release him as far as that goes. And then I think the big trade was the Dallas Mavericks overhauling again, right? Anthony Davis on the way to the Wizards. An 8-player blockbuster deal. Now, obviously, for the Mavs, they're looking to build around Cooper Flagg. The Mavs will send Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum, our guy Dante Exum, to the Wizards for Middleton, A.J. Johnson, Marvin Bagley III Marvin Bagley III will go down as one of those players who was drafted ahead of, get ready for this, Luka Doncic.
Well, is he going to be in the same territory of a Sam Bowie? Obviously, famously ahead of
I think
MJ.
he's going to be worse. I think he's going to be worse.
Okay.
Because now, MJ was a better player, obviously, than Doncic because Doncic is very good, and we all think he's a great player. But I think Sam Bowie, he had some injury issues there that prevented him. I'm not sure Marvin Bagley was ever going to be a good player that could have been anything that would be even remotely approximating the second pick, because the Suns went with DeAndre Ayton, who's a big old bust. It seems like he's collecting a paycheck, and that's about it. And then the Sacramento Kings, who have been down for so long, save that run that they had with Vlade and Bibi and who's our other guy, Chris Webber, Stojakovic. Yeah, that was a good slice in Kings history, but that's all it was, man. And other than that, they have been down, and you had a chance to get Doncic. And so the Mavs building around Cooper Flagg, which certainly makes sense. I already referenced the trade of Jonathan Kuminga. The Warriors really blew it because they had a bunch of high picks too that could have continued, or at least smoothed out, maybe continued to keep them contending. I don't think they're contending. I think they're an okay team. Now Jimmy Butler's out, and he'll play a little bit off the bench, obviously. Shooter, been in the league. I think he came out of Oklahoma. Wasn't he? He's a Caribbean kid.
Yeah.
And he can shoot the ball, but he's gone. So we'll see about that, how that works out. I mean, you could say, okay, wow, man, they're going to build around Cooper Flagg. But I think the thing to remember, when they traded Doncic, they had no idea that they would get Cooper Flagg. And it worked out for them that they did get Cooper Flagg because they got the number one pick. And then, of course, he is available. But when they made that trade, that wasn't the case. They wouldn't have had any idea that they lucked out into getting the number one pick of the draft. So, and speaking of my Kings, they lost to the Grizzlies. Last night. So we'll see what happens there. That's about it as far as any games that might be of concern to the Jazz as far as their picks go. Because maybe keep an eye on the Clippers. What happens to the Clippers and the Bucks and the Pelicans? I mean, somebody had to win. The Pelicans beat the Bucks. I'd be concerned about the Bucks, particularly if that's the big name still remaining on the board. Obviously, is Antetokounmpo. If he gets traded today, what happens to the Bucks? And even if he stays, he's not playing. So watch out for the Bucks. It all leads to the just imperative nature that the Jazz lose some more ball games. And each time they get a win, it's like, oh my gosh, we gotta wait now. We gotta wait another game to see if they lose. But the good young players play well. I don't think it's quite a double-edged sword because I think the young players have played well, but it's important that they lose as far as that goes, to be able to keep that pick, and then not just keep the pick, get lucky in the lottery. And at some point, man, they got to get lucky, right? Because they haven't been lucky in that lottery. And now here's the opportunity. So hopefully they can do that when we get to May and finish up the season on a low note, unfortunately, in terms of winning and losing. All right, let's get on to a big story. That would be college basketball.
Hashtag college basketball.
Oh, we had some court stormings, didn't we? Yeah, I think was it Minnesota beating Michigan State? 17 people in Portland were all fired up as the Portland Pilots beat number 6 Gonzaga. And they were a 22.5-point underdog. You never know. I'm saving the worst for the last, or the last for worst. Utah State, wow. Watch that game a little bit there. They just put it on New Mexico. That was like a 3 or 4 point game. I think it was a 4. Utah State put a putback in at the buzzer at the end of the first half to up it from 1-4, or 1-3, I should say. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, this is going to be a ball game. But they just go down to Mexico and just put it on the Lobos in the battle for first place in the Mountain West. They hammer him literally by 20 points. That was impressive. Was it? Yeah, it was 20, wasn't it? 88-68? Was that the final? Something like
Correct.
that?
Yeah, it was 20-point margin.
Yeah. Wow. That was awesome. And, man, they moved the ball. They played some defense. I got to say, each time I watch the Aggies play ball, and, I've since he's a freshman, Falstaff, he's so good. Filling up the stat sheet. What he had, 19 points, 4 or 5 from 3. But he rebounds. He can pass the ball. He can set teammates up to lead to an assist, meaning he can dribble the ball, all that stuff. He's going to give you all he's got defensively. I just think the world of that kid. I think he's an amazing young player. He's a junior now, and so he's still got another year. And he's in a day and age where everybody just bolts at the drop of a hat. He has stayed loyal to his hometown team up there in Logan for Utah State. So high praise for Falstaff. But when I watch the Aggies, what I was going to say is I come away more and more impressed with Calhoun as a basketball coach. He seems to have an idea of the way it has to be for Utah State to play winning basketball. And the team plays that level of competition amongst themselves. They compete for playing time. They do what they're supposed to do. And obviously they compete against the opponent. And I find them to be a fun team to watch. So there you go. The Utes, our guy Smith, couldn't throw it in the proverbial ocean last night. Who was he? Like 2 of 16. And they're going to struggle. McHenry had 23, but it wasn't enough. ASU beat them, as it looks like the Utes very well could be in line to finish last. They're not going to have the season that they had wanted, but at the same time, we know that Alex Jensen is about rebuilding this team, and he's going to need some time, that's for sure. They've been competitive in some of their games. Now, they let the Devils get out to, a 15, 16-point lead, cut it down to 4, and then couldn't get a stop, and the Devils, I think, hit a 3, and that was all she wrote, and they had to foul at the end, so the margin was a little bit worse than probably maybe the competitive nature of the game. So they're going to battle as the season winds down and then go and try to reload from that perspective. Now, the game of the night here locally, oh my gosh, BYU 99-92, Oklahoma State. Oh, brother. I mean, DeMonte had 36. Yeah, we heard Kevin Young go on after Mormons and all that. How's he explain that to his kids? And I don't understand why.
And we have a statement already this morning from the Big 12, PK.
Uh-oh. What does it say?
My computer is now freezing up. But statement from Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, quote, the Big 12 Conference is aware of and is investigating reports of inappropriate chants that occurred during last night's BYU-Oklahoma State men's basketball game. All parties have been notified. The conference has zero tolerance for behavior of this nature and will address the matter in accordance with Big 12 sportsmanship policies, unquote.
So we're going to have thoughts and prayers out to BYU?
Sure seems that way.
Nothing's going to be done. Hire more security and have cameras. I put cameras in there and point them. I would think, now I can't vouch for this across the board, but I would think it would be ignorant students, particularly of the male persuasion, who, as we know scientifically, their brains are not fully formed until they're 25. So, or maybe, how about this? Have DeBonsa teach a Book of Mormon class in each of the institutions in the Big 12. Because they were talking about that.
It's his favorite class, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a little education. Or we're going to stop the game and we're going to require the coach to go ahead and say something, take the mic. That's been done in the past. Because if Kevin Young can hear it, the opposing team's coaches have their president, have their athletic director, have their coach, and maybe player. And do they do student body elections in college? Have the student body president do something, say something. But these statements that they put out, they don't do anything. They're pointless, right? There's no repercussions. There's no consequence. Maybe a technical foul. Maybe you lose the game. Maybe if you chant that, we're going to stop the game. The game is over. I don't know. That's obviously way too drastic. So
Well,
probably not.
but to your point,
Go
PK, we have in international soccer, if there are some chants that have been told, if FIFA, if anybody hears them, they will either stop the match until it stops, or they will call the match off. So yeah, there is precedent for something like that.
Yeah, and DJ isn't here today, but you're carrying the banner for soccer, and let me just say, praise the Almighty that you're here to carry the banner for soccer.
You're welcome. I'm just trying to give you some context.
Right, and I need context, and I think soccer is the standard, and it is the number one sport in the world, obviously. But the Cougars play some freaking defense, and can you act like you care with the basketball in the first half? Just throw it out of bounds then. At least that gives you an opportunity to get your defense set. My goodness, you are bad. You are a bad defensive team. The last 2 games, teams scored over 90 in a 40-minute game. That's absolutely unacceptable. Come on, Kevin Young. You're supposed to be all that. You got 42 assistants over there wearing black last night. Do something about it, because right now you are underachieving, and it is an embarrassment for the money that you paid. And I'm speaking as a whole, not Kevin Young dealing out money himself. The effort that they're putting forth defensively is a flat-out embarrassment. And I don't take any joy in saying that. I'd much rather talk about a win. But right now, completely and totally unacceptable. And I don't think there's any BYU fan, even the hardcore stick up for them at all costs, would argue with me. All right, let's move on to the NFL.
Hashtag NFL.
Oh, how about this? The Jets, Frank Reich. See you later. His one season in Stanford, that was a weird situation, wasn't it? To Andrew Luck, having him come in and just be the interim coach for a year as Andrew Luck got his feet under him and figured out what to do. Well, he's going to be the OC for the Jets. Now, he's got head coaching experience in the NFL, right? The Colts and the Panthers. And obviously, I just said Stanford, ex-quarterback. And so we'll see what the Jets can do there. We'll see what happens in the draft, too. What direction do the Jets go? Do they make moves? What are they going to do at quarterback? That's always going to be the question. So LaFleur down in Arizona. It's got to be the younger brother. I mean, and I know he's the brother, but he's got to be the younger brother of the Packers coach, right? And he used to be. Wasn't he Salah's OC with the Jets when Zach Wilson was there?
He was there, and yeah, it did not go well.
Yeah. And so now he's in the circle that just keeps spinning around and around. Nathaniel Hackett, Paul Hackett's son, is going to be the coordinator for Arizona, the offensive coordinator. We'll see how that happens, what happens there. As the Cardinals, they, outside of a couple of runs that they've had, they've been mostly crappy in their 40 years. I think it's coming up. It might be 40 years this year, if I remember, when they moved to Arizona. Mahomes Sr., my gosh, arrested again. Authorities said he violated his probation from a conviction of driving while intoxicated, DWI. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation after pleading guilty in August of 24 to a DWI charge. And he had a high alcohol reading on his ankle monitor in January. So he seems to have an issue there. That is serious and not to be taken lightly, but I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully he gets some help if he needs it. All right, college football is up next.
Hashtag college football.
Yeah, I saw this. I'm glad you put this on the rundown. Washington quarterback Damon Williams had a short-lived decision to leave the Huskies. It was a mistake that resulted in, quote, definitely being 19. You get good advice and you get really bad advice at times. We're all human. We all make mistakes. At the end of the day, I'm super blessed to be here with my brothers and my coaches. And just at the University of Washington, I'm just so happy to be here and be blessed, so blessed. Well, I think he had to do that, right? To his teammates. It's like, wait a second, you left, and then there was some issues there and all that. What was he going to go to LSU? Was that the plan? I think that was, but that didn't turn out right. So there you go on that. NCAA formally denying the petition for Ole Miss QB Trinidad Chambliss for another year of eligibility, and now he will have a hope for an injunction from a court in Mississippi to get him the year back. It seems a little arbitrary. Some kids get it, some kids don't. I don't know what the issue is there, but nevertheless, that's what we got. And Tennessee Volunteers QB
Joey Aguilar has a court issue a temporary restraining order to give him another year of eligibility. So here we go on that. Everybody wants eligibility, especially, I guess, with money at stake, right? Seems like you ought to get 5 years. And even if you want to play 5 years, 5 years to play 5 years to play 4, whatever. Just give them 5 years. You can do whatever you want those 5 years, unless there's some rare exception. But the chaos continues in college sports. And let's go to MLB.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I saw this. This was a big story in the world of MLB. Tigers fucking free agent Framber Valdez. He's a good pitcher, good left-handed pitcher. 3-year, $115 million dealer, which comes out to $38.3 million per year. And they didn't want to give that kind of money, I guess, to Skubal, who is him and Skeens over there in Pittsburgh, the two best pitchers. Both those guys supposed to be in the World Baseball Classic that is coming up next month. So you wonder what's going to happen there. They've got an arbitration hearing. He wants $32 million. And what were they? They were only offering in the high teens.
19.
That's what it was.
19. Yeah.
Right. And he's really good. A kid from Kingman, Arizona. For all of you Arizona folks who've driven from Phoenix to Vegas, you know where Kingman is. It's about 100 miles outside of Vegas, sort of out in the middle of nowhere. A strange place to be from. Kind of a random place. Not really strange, but random. And he wants $32 million. My guess is the arbitrator is going to give it to him. We'll see what happens there. Okay, the People's Open up next.
Hashtag golf.
Waste Management. It's in Phoenix. The party time. Been there many times. Covered Johnny Miller. That was the last place he broadcast. He retired on a Friday because he wanted the weekend to be about the tournament. And I was there, covered it, talked to him afterward. Said he enjoyed listening to our show. DJ and PK said, I reminded him of him. I like to mix it up. And Johnny Miller was my little golf hero when I was a kid, when I was 14 to 15 years old, because he was really good back then. Did you see they had the Pro-Am? Did you see Travis Kelce, Yak? You see his swing? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So he tees off the first hole, and that's a pretty good swing. Then they get to 16. Obviously, that's the famous hole. And he puts a draw on it, and the announcer says, oh, that's going to be to the right, because that's what a draw does for the right-handed player, and then it curves in left. He sticks it to what? Maybe 4 feet away? No. Beautiful swing for Travis Kelce. That was fun to see, to watch him do that, to get up there and have that kind of swing. Now, we don't have any locals. Tony Finau's not playing in this one?
I don't believe so, which is strange, because usually he's played
he lives right down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go on to the Mammoth.
Hashtag NHL.
Puck rolls around the boards in the Detroit zone. Alex DeBrincat turned it over, turns the net, they score! And it's Jersey sneaking one in to make it 1-0, not even a minute in. Utah with a two-man advantage. Mammoth 2 for 4 on the 5-on-3 this year. In front, they score! And it's Nick Schmaltz once again. Gunther re-enters. Gunther speeding in on the backhand, shoots and scores! Dylan Gunther extends Utah's lead, and it's 3-0.
All right, and Clayton Keller added the other goal as the Mammoth. They win 4-1 Detroit. They're off for 3 weeks now, so they enter the break at 30-23-4.
They're in the playoff. This time last year when they had the break for the Four Nations, 14 of the 16 teams who were in at that time actually got in. We'll see when we reconvene in 3 weeks if the Mammoth can hold their spot. They're winning enough games, they're avoiding big losing streaks, so it looks like they've got a decent chance. I would say maybe 75%, 80%. We'll see what happens. I don't want to jinx them. But right now it looks like they will be in and make their first playoff appearance in a good number of years, and obviously their first playoff appearance for the Mammoth here and the fans in Utah, right? That's pretty cool. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Okay, coming up right around the break, BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga, and at 8 o'clock, Joe Millax, is that how you say it? Co-host of Locked On Grizzlies, Millax. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll do some hockey talk with our Utah Mammoth insider for KSL Sports. That's Cole Bagley. So stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Love is in the air. And the Zone is ready to help you become a Valentine's Day MVP. Listen to 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and online at KSLSports.com for your chance to win 2 Grande Minky Couture blankets. Keep it locked on the KSL Sports Zone and be Valentine's MVP. Presented by Minky Couture on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in. Thanks for joining us, DJ and PK. My good man DJ is off today. He will be back tomorrow. Got to tell you about Bar WB. Join Scotty G Friday. That's tomorrow from noon to 3 at the Grill at 2264 South Main Street in Nephi. All right, lots to talk about this morning. Yesterday morning at about 11 o'clock, BYU held a Zoom media availability with all their coaches. Kalani Sitake went first, and it's kind of funny. I mean, of all the, and they did it in pairs. Kalani went by himself, but then you had Puha and Anna, you had the 2 new coaches, and you had the coordinators, Kelly Poppinga and Aaron Roderick. And joining us right now is the new defensive coordinator, Kelly Poppinga. Kelly, good morning.
PK, how we doing?
Doing great. You know, I was thinking, watching yesterday there in your new role, I'm thinking, my gosh, the kids grow up fast, don't they? Because I was a beat writer when you were a player, as I was a beat writer a few years earlier when Kalani and A-Rod were players. And here we are. You have a leadership role now. And I mean, you had one before as a special teams guy and interior line or exterior, but now you are the coordinator. How exciting is that for you to have this individual promotion?
It's been really exciting to kind of see everything come together, to see our staff come together, to see the players stay and be retained, and all that happened too. I don't want to give any credit to myself. That all happened before I even was announced. There was a few players that knew I was staying, but I would really give the leadership of the team a ton of credit there, that we were able to retain all these guys. And so it's exciting to be able to work with all this talent that we have coming back. Not just talent, these guys are exceptional people. And I just think, Kalani's created a great culture, and it's made our players want to stay here or make it really hard for them to leave here. And so it's fun to get a bunch of these really good players back in a first-year coordinator role for me, to be able to have the depth and the talent that we have. It's going to make my job a little easier, right? And so excited for the opportunity and the challenge, and very thankful to Kalani to giving me this opportunity.
It's funny how much things have changed over the years as far as, recruiting is always a big deal, right? It always has been a big deal. You guys spend a ton of time recruiting. I've seen you sitting there watching high school basketball games, watch sophomores. So they're still 2-3 years away from potentially making commitments. So you have to establish those relationships, and then you'd have to establish relationships with high school coaches, JC guys, and there'd be a few transfers here and there that would have. Now the transfer portal is huge, but also I think maybe an underappreciated story, Kelly, is now basically the retainment period. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but I'm going to coin that in terms of you've got to make sure that you keep your guys, because you got some really good players. And we've seen guys who follow coaches, and obviously Jay and Janelle go with Kyle to Michigan. So that was one. Plus there's others, I'm sure. Speak to how important that retainment period is after the season before school starts, to make sure the guys who are vital in your program actually do stay in your program.
Yeah, to me, it's the most important part of recruiting now is you spend all, like you said, you spend all this time, you spend all this money recruiting these kids to come here in high school, which is really, that's probably the most important part, right? You got to get him here first, but the second most important part is you got to retain him here. And that's a part of recruiting that we use is like, okay, we're going to recruit this guy. And I don't even know if this is a word, but what's his retainability, right?
Yeah.
Is he a guy that we can retain? If he, like, say he blows up to be an All-American, or like LJ, he becomes the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Like, are we going to be able to retain this guy? And to LJ's credit, he had a lot of people that were coming after him, and he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay. And it goes back once again, I think, to the culture Kalani's created here, the way that we push our guys, but at the same time, Kalani likes to have a lot of fun doing it. And so I think the guys know that we're going to take really good care of them. And they just know that, at some places in college football, it's not like that. It's a true business. There's no relationship with the coaches. It's just, they get into the building, they get out, and there's really not much more going on. It's like they've already, made it to the NFL as far as like relationships go. So we try to push that part really hard. And so that goes into the retainability part. Once you get to the end of the season, we got to do it's really kind of like, in a way, you have to recruit them all over again, but really you're recruiting them throughout the whole entire season, right? The way that you treat them, the way that you coach them. They're interviewing you, and we're interviewing them throughout this whole process as the season goes on. And so I think a lot of times you lose players during the season, by the way. A lot of times it's because you don't tell them the truth, right? So you tell them, hey, you're going to play all this, you're going to have all this playing time, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. But if that never happens, and the player just looks at you as a liar and just like, okay, this guy's not a man of truth, and so he's going to go and find that somewhere else. And so I just think that our players, ultimately, at the end of the day, when it came to this season, they saw that we were trying to do it the right way, and I think they saw the result of it, and the result was good, right? And so I think a lot of them were like, why would I leave a situation where the results are good? We're getting what we've been looking for as a player, and I think that validity of winning and being successful, not just on the field but off the field as well, has helped retain our roster.
The way you speak of that, and I think it's kind of a perception, and I want you to address it, is that, the kid glove approach now, that the kids, you got to make sure that you're building them up and maybe even buttering them up. And so you can't, and I heard the UCLA basketball coach say this the other day, is that he can't coach them the way he used to. And the reference there and that we would take inference is that, well, you can't coach them hard. And I wanted you to address that, because you have to coach them hard, but you got to make sure that, I guess, you're not offending them. How much of that is a line that you got to straddle to make sure you still coach them hard, but you don't upset him and mom and dad and girlfriend or wherever it might be?
Yeah, I totally disagree with the UCLA coach. And I think I actually saw that quote. And the reason why is, I think if you have the right kid, he wants to be coached hard. Right. So it doesn't matter the situation. If you recruit it the right way and you recruit it to what you're looking for, the kid wants to be coached hard. And I think that's something that Kalani's a master at. I thought Jay was really good at it. I think Gary Anderson's really good at it. And I think we've all just learned as a staff, you have to coach your guys hard. But then at the same time, you got to love them up and you got to take care of them. And there's that fine line of, you can't be his buddy and his friend all the time, right? And that's really not our job. Our job is to help them reach their potential as a player and as a person. And if you're not doing that day in and day out, coaching them hard, they're not going to become the best version of themselves. And every good player will say that, right? They want to be coached hard and they want to be given the proper coaching. If you're not correcting them to help them become a better player, then they see that and they'll go find that, right? So I think there's that fine line right there, is you got to be able to coach a guy hard, but that maybe a minute later or 2 minutes later, you're over on the sideline, you're hugging that guy up and letting him know that you love and care for him. And Kalani uses this principle in the program, which I really love, is that's true love. True love. And the same thing when you raise your kids, right? So none of us are perfect at raising our kids, and it's, I think, like coaching, but there's times like true love is you've got to tell the truth, right? And if you tell the truth, then they see that you're trying to help them become better, right? But when you start beating around the bush and maybe telling them how great they are all the time, then that's never going to help anybody. That's in the football world or any world. Like, we got to be able to tell the truth, address the truth, and fix it, and that's going to help all of us continue to progress.
New BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga joining us here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. I'm wondering now, as your coordinator, you are the coordinator, each day you're going to be doing things, working, in season, out of season. How much of that changes now from what you were, the literal changes as to how you spend your day and days now that you're the coordinator versus when you were a position coach?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So it just from you're no longer just recruiting your position, but now you're recruiting the whole side of the ball. And we'd all help each other out, but now it's like you're one of the main contacts with every single one of those guys. So I think that takes up a lot of time. It's the same thing when you coach your position. You're only coaching, the outside backers or defensive ends when you're a position coach, but now when you're D coordinator, you're coaching the whole entire defense, right? So, and then now you're also managing coaches at the same time, right? So beforehand, you're kind of just, doing your thing, as a defensive end coach or a special teams coordinator, and you'll get some help from other people, and you have to manage, maybe a couple coaches that are helping you with special teams. But now on the defensive side of the ball, there's 10 to 12 guys now that I have to help make sure that, we're coaching the proper techniques and fundamentals. We're coaching the call correctly. We're making sure that, everybody's in a good standing academically, right? So there's this whole management now of people that you have to worry about. And so, yeah, that takes up a lot more time, and you just really don't know until you're doing it. And so, I tell my wife all the time, it's been this last month has been super, super busy, and it's been more busy than I've ever been in my whole coaching career. And I've gotten home a couple nights a little later than usual, and she's just like, "Are you sure this is what we wanted here?" So, but it's good. I mean, she's supportive and all, but it's just you just don't realize until you're actually in it, and it'll get better. The more that I learn and grow and be able to learn how to manage time better, and manage each, I think, bucket of responsibilities that you have, then it will get better. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, man. But it's been fun to learn and grow, and I've had Kalani's helped me a ton, and I've taken calls from Bronco. Bronco and I have talked a lot, and he's helped me out with a bunch of stuff. And so it's good to have these. And Gary Anderson's been here and helping me a ton. So it's been good to have these guys that have been around for a long time, that have been super successful doing it, being able to give me their feedback and their suggestions. And so being able to have people like that to talk to has really helped me as well.
And that leads me to my next question. We're talking to Kelly Poppinga, BYU defensive coordinator. Everybody has mentors. I don't care who you are, what you do. We all have mentors, right? Whether it's family members when we're younger growing up. I had I have a couple older sisters, and one of my sister's husbands was my guy. I didn't have a big brother, and he was my big brother. He was 10 years older than me, and I owe so much of what I am about to him. You recruit Arizona, don't you? You have recruited Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he was a soccer coach at Cactus High School. I don't know if you ever made it out that way. Yeah. The little press box thing. If you enter go the next time, it's got his name on it because he started high school soccer and was one of the gurus in high school soccer. Anyway, he was my guy, and I didn't make a decision without consulting with him because I knew he had my best interest at heart at all times. He's gone now, and I miss him dearly. But anyway, I wanted to hit on your mentors. You already mentioned Bronco. Who else you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously Bronco is probably one of the main ones. I was with him for 13 years as a coach, and then, there 3 or 4 as a player. And then I would say just the original defensive staff that I was on, Paul Tidwell, Steve Kafusi, I think those guys were great mentors for me. Even Lance Reynolds, the coach Lance Reynolds helped me out a ton when I was first getting into this business. And Mark Weber, another guy, that original staff that I was on as a young coach, really helped me grow, develop, and know who I am in the coaching world. But as far as just defensive mentors, I would say it has to come down to Bronco. I think Nick Howell's, into that right there. I think even my time at Boise State, I had, Spencer Danielson, who's now the head coach, and Andy Avalos, and Kane Ione. There's tons of people that have been – I've been blessed. I've been put in great situations around great coaches everywhere I've been, from my first time here at BYU to my time at Virginia to my time at Boise. And that's why I brought Demario Warren here, right, because he was so influential in what I was doing and what we had done at Boise that I thought, man, if I ever have a chance to hire this guy, this can be the first call that I have. And so – there's all these great people, but now if I'm really looking into it, Jay Hill was awesome. For 3 years, what I was able to learn from that guy and just a different perspective. So if I had to say who I'd say this defense is going to be based around, it's going to be based around a little bit of Bronco Mendenhall. It's going to be based around a little bit of what we did at Boise State. It's going to be based around, a little bit of what Jay Hill did. And, that the whole fundamentals is going to come from Kalani and Gary. They're the ones, really, if you look at the tree from Kyle to Gary to Kalani and Jay, and then now the situation that we're in now. So I just think each phase of that is going to have their little twist on this deal. But yeah, if you had to say where it all started, it started with probably Kyle Whittingham, and even before that, Fred Whittingham, right? So that's where it all kind of
cool. There you go.
And it's, like I look at it now and be like, whoever thought that I'd be a part of that tree, but I am a part of it now, and I've learned a ton from it. And so to be able to take that, what I've learned, and apply some of the stuff that I learned from Bronco and from my Boise State times, like it's the same thing I did with special teams. I'm going to try to take the best of all the worlds, and find find our mix of what works for our team and our players. And that's our job. And that's what we're doing right now, is looking at last season and saying, okay, what fits into this defense, this style of defense that we want to play with the players that we have, and then we'll run with it. And I'm really excited about where we are at this point.
Me too, Kelly. I could talk to you for another hour, but I know you got to go. We didn't get an opportunity to get into personnel. We can do that down the road. I'm happy for you. It's a justified thing that you worked for, and I expect the BYU defense to have success. And thanks for joining us.
All right, PK. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga, as he is now taking over. And well, we'll get to it next. I know we got to go to break because Yak and I will talk about just the coaching tree that is in the state and where it began and how it's continuing. So stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Big trade. Whoa, including the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
The Utah Jazz are trading for Jaren Jackson Jr.
Whoa.
John Conchar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams for Walt Clayton, Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future first-round picks. This is a huge trade for the Utah Jazz.
Wow, that is a huge trade for the Jazz.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is exactly the type of player the Jazz have needed to come in and cement the front court, right? He's going to come in and be a major defensive piece for the Utah Jazz.
One thing that the Jazz have not really utilized with Lauri Markkanen that Cleveland did was they put him at the 3, and all of a sudden they were the biggest team in the league by a mile. I don't know how this affects their plans for Walker Kessler, but if you start Walker Kessler, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Lauri Markkanen as your front court, they're huge. And then Ace Bailey goes into the back court.
You've got a stew going, as they like to say.
Got yourself a stew going.
You're really cooking there at that point.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, how about football love in the state of Utah, Yak? Did you hear Kelly Poppinga? I'm sure you did, as we just had him on, talking about his defensive influences and how he comes for the Kyle Whittingham tree. And then what other name did he mention that begins before Kyle?
One Fred Whittingham Sr.
It always comes back to him. Now that we are so far removed from Fred's coaching days, it's stunning how the influence, I think you can trace it back to 2 guys in this state, which permeates all 3 Division I programs. And that is number 1, Lavelle Edwards, and number 2, Big Fred Whittingham. Those 2 guys have, and they're both deceased now and have been for a number of years, have an enormous influence on how defense is played in this state. That's just a fact.
You're right. And you've made the statement before that his influence from it's from beyond the grave is unlike very few coaches ever.
Right, it is. Right. And you have Kelly Poppinga, who didn't play for the U, never coached for Big Fred. Obviously, he wouldn't have been sued. The chronologically timeline doesn't work out. But he never coached or played for Kyle. They both played at BYU, but he never coached for Kyle. And Kyle's influence, and Kyle will tell you, I've only had 400 discussions about that with him, as he said it, as many media people have. I'm not anything special there. That his influence, his most dominant influence, is his father, Big Fred. And then he's teaching it to Jay. He's teaching it to Kalani. Those guys bring it to BYU. Jay's teaching Kelly. Obviously, taught it to Morgan Scally.
Gary Anderson's in the mix here.
Gary Anderson is absolutely 100% in that mix. You're totally right there. And that Bronco was involved with influencing
Kelly and Lavelle had an influence upon Bronco. And if you're thinking, well, Bronco's a loose affiliate there, Bronco once said, I remember it vividly, his brother Matt, who played at BYU, was a little bit bigger than Bronco, played defensive line, and played in the NFL, played and I believe won a Super Bowl with Washington. And then he had some issues, but he was there. And he said that his older brother Matt, said that the best coach he ever had was Fred Whittingham at BYU. And so clearly that is just amazing how you can tie that back to Lavelle for one, big Fred Whittingham number two. It is incredible. One is and Kyle. So you got big Fred and Kyle. One has gone to the great blue yonder in the sky, and the other one has gone just to the great blue. How about that, Doc?
There we go. Go blue.
All right. Coming up next, we got to it's still the big story, I think, is Jaren Jackson coming to the Utah Jazz. And we're going to talk to the Locked On Sports podcast guy who does that, Joe Millinax. We'll get to that next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.